and look her way. Could be hers today. Danger, she's out into the night. Locked into another affair. Didn't seem to go nowhere. With no choice, she thought she might rush into the wind, go out into the night. Danger, she walks the streets alone. All the bars she now knows, and all the men that look her way. Could be hers today. Risk you take to find someone new. She don't know where or who. She wants to do it right. She's gone out into the night. Danger, she's out into the night. Danger, she's such a good sight. She's up tonight. Danger, she's such a pretty sight. Danger, she's up tonight. Danger, she's such a pretty sight.
The ultimate tour of town starts at the Fort DeSoto State Park at the mouth of Tampa Bay near St. Petersburg and heads south down the Gulf Coast. There are 3 compulsory checkpoints along the way before reaching Key Largo. After exiting Tampa Bay, we pass Anna Maria Island, Longboat Key, Lido Key, Siesta Key, Venice, Nokomis, and Inglewood before heading into the Intercoastal Waterway at Stump Pass, which takes us to Checkpoint 1 at Cape Hayes Marina, just north of Boca Grande. Cape Hayes Marina is your typical marina condo complex with a dry stack for powerboats and a bait shop, as well as a few other powerboat-oriented features. The checkpoint captains there are always friendly and eager to see us, since this is the first milestone in a long journey. But while we enjoy their hospitality, we have a race to run, so after signing the log, we turn and burn, getting back underway. Once back in the Gulf, we turn left, passing Boca Grande, Cayo Costa, North Captiva Island, and Sanibel Islands before crossing San Carlos Bay, heading towards Marco Island, which is the last piece of civilization on the west coast of Florida, before we turn southeast towards the Everglades and on to Checkpoint 2 at Chokoloskee. For onboard navigation, the primary platform is an Navionics app on my waterproof Samsung Galaxy cell phone. This is backed up by a Garmin Fortrex GPS on my wrist, as well as good old waterproof paper charts. And our electronic backup, we have our good old iPad, which we have in a waterproof pouch and use when the resolution of a greater size is required.
Famed white elephant of the Cape Romano dome houses. Somebody with a large fortune came down here and I guess built these things. I can see the in-loft apartments falling in the water over there. Anyway, that's there they are, there they go. Somebody's wild idea of a beach house.
Among the many challenges that we encountered along the way was getting in and out of various passes and channels where we had to battle adverse currents and fickle wind. But Spawn is a versatile vessel and is equipped with a high-tech rowing package, which we've used to great effect whenever we've encountered such obstacles. Skipper Jeff is a master oarsman, and I'm really good at helping him keep the tempo. Chokoloskee is always a challenge. It seems every time we go in and out of there, we're against the current both ways and very often get to the beach at low tide. This particular video clip has us at high tide, makes it look easy, but it's not always like that. So very shifty winds going in and out of there, a lot of really shallow water. More often than not, you got to get out and push, but that's just part of the fun in games. Here we're doing a lot of short tacking because, again, not only is the current against us, but very often the wind is too. Here's a look at what our actual track looks like going in and out. So here's an exit of us going back out. Again, against the current, and just wind really fluky in there.
Look at the bubbles.
Takes us next to Flamingo. And Flamingo is a ranger station down around Cape Sable and really the bottom of mainland Florida. There's a ranger station down there. It's really hard to get to. It's on go down a road southwest out of Miami, about 45, 50 miles, and boom, you'll find yourself in Flamingo. We got in there in the light of day this year. We planned it that way because it can be very challenging getting in there at night. We've been in there at night a couple of times, and we had plenty of other challenges on this trip that we didn't need to go beyond. Anyway, you get to the ranger station there, and you got to do your check-in.
Okay, we are on the dock here at Flamingo. Just came. It's been a kind of nice to be back on dry land here for a few minutes. Yeah, wristband required to board. No wristband required on the Mighty Spawn. More than once that we've been in here, there's been a crocodile hanging out on this boat ramp. Not today.
The leg from Flamingo to Key Largo is 27 miles as the crow flies, but you can almost never go straight due to the prevailing easterly winds down there.
Murray Clyde Southern Route. Wild water's really shallow here. We've got to play the centerboard here. Just like you play the Vang. Just a different kind of yacht racing. You can hear some birds in there. Something chirping away. I might get a rain shower after all.
Crossing Florida Bay redefines what sailing in shallow water looks like. We're actually in the channel here, which is about 18 inches to 2 feet deep, And as you can see, channel isn't very wide. The wing of our boat is going over dry land there as we went skidding through this channel on our way down to the sort of the intercoastal waterway on the north side of the Keys. We more or less intercept the Keys down around Isla Morada and then had to kind of beat our way across over
14:30. Again, you can see how muddy it is. Jeffrey's walked us about 100 yards so far, almost there. All right, back and moving again. Jeffrey's back on the boat, not too muddy on the feet. It's kind of sandy. Anyway, I came around that corner and that was, you can see the shoal there that we basically walked over the top of. Can't do that in a keel boat. That's how you do shoals in the Everglades Challenge.
Getting across the labyrinth of Florida Bay and over to Key Largo is kind of like Heartbreak Hill in the Boston Marathon. So when you get to Key Largo, it's a real accomplishment. Here we are, tied up to the dock soon after our arrival, getting the sails down. But get the boat over on the dock, and our room is literally right at the head of this dock, and it's just a spectacular place facing Florida Bay. However, you got to keep your eyes out for the predators in the area. Although I've never seen a crocodile there, they've got the warning signs up. Of course, you know you're in the Keys.
All right, we're
when you
out
see
of
the
here.
mobile
This is,
tiki bars.
Leaving.
Anyway, only stayed overnight, and then we took off again, headed up Biscayne Bay towards Miami, and then out into the ocean. There's our track. You can see where we headed way out almost to the Bahamas before we jibed. Here we are heading south. If you've ever driven to the Keys, you have driven over that bridge, Route 1.
Largo.
And we've now been under it. Headed up Jewfish Creek towards Biscayne Bay. And as we head up the bay, we get ourselves geared up back into our dry suits as we head back out into the ocean. And for the long trip up to the St. Mary's River, roughly 350 plus miles away.
There's Flowey Rocks Light there at the north end of the coral reefs of the Florida Keys. We're gonna get our asses a sunset, boy. Maybe.
The course we chose once we got out into the ocean was to get us out into the Gulf Stream, which is relatively close to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, maybe about 6 or 7 miles offshore there, but can move at 3 to 4 knots of current, so kind of a magic carpet ride up the East Coast. We had a nice southeasterly breeze to do it in, and so it wasn't super challenging conditions. A lot of people would say, why would you take a little boat like that out into the Gulf Stream, you knuckleheads? But it's a calculated risk, and we've got a lot of safety precautions, and we got a lot of miles in that Spawn, and she's proved herself to be a very capable boat and served us well. But here we are, just again off of Key Biscayne as we're zipping north, looking around inside the boat here at our various storage options. There's our bins back aft. That's a water pump there for our water ballast tanks on the floor, the wheels for the canoe in that gray bag in the back. And here's dinner time. Gotta make sure we got something to eat before sun goes down. And yes, we share. A brief tour of the onboard accommodations. It's not exactly the Queen Mary 2, but helps get the job done. Because we try to get out of the spray and the wind and get a little shut-eye down below.
Living the dream. Put some more sunscreen on. See if we can get some bacon and eggs and grits whipped up. And get on down the course.
The morning after, heading on port tack back in towards Cape Canaveral, after we took a detour over by the Bahamas. But here we are, just surfing along, and just had a crazy day here. We got to watch a SpaceX rocket launch. Here's a That wasn't from our boat. That's a stock photo. But actually, I was a little delirious here when it went over. But we did catch the smoke, and there's the wake of the rocket. The rocket was delayed a couple days because we weren't supposed to be there. But anyway, it was spectacular for sure.
Pretty cool. Anyway, we're just south of Daytona Beach here, still on port tack. Get the kite up. Got some rain in front of us. I think the rinse will probably be nice. Anyway, but got to thread our way through here. Don't want too much excitement from T-storms. This one's been rumbling for the last 45 minutes or so. Looks like it's staying offshore. We got to go under this cloud, and we'll see what happens. We got the screecher down just to be prepared. Maybe we're getting headed here. Signing off.
And that abrupt change in conditions marked the start of one of the more miserable and challenging episodes in our lives. A lot of rain and no wind, along with rain and a lot of wind and the squalls, but mostly no wind for the next 28 hours. Sleeping in puddles. Had to be ready to jump up on the rack anytime the breeze popped up. Visibility next to nothing during the night. And anyway, here we are off of Jacksonville. There's a bunch of naval maneuvers going on around us. The aircraft carriers and helicopters and jets flying around, but that was the only entertainment we had. But it's drizzly, rainy, and God, we were just trying to get to the mouth of the St. Mary's River, which is we arrived right at the slack before ebb. So we anchored, waiting for the tide, and thankfully when the tide turned and was going in, we got a little bit of breeze to sail in as well, because as you can see, there's no wind right now. And while I had quit drinking in Memorial Day of 2020, our successful arrival in St. Mary's definitely called for a beer. The morning after our arrival in St. Mary's, of course, it's raining, but we had to break the boat down, get prepared to swap to the canoe for the St. Mary's River. Anyway, enjoying getting the boat tied down, a warm, hearty meal, and my pruned hands from the being wet all morning. The route across the top of Florida takes us up the St. Mary's River, but it only goes so far. We had to then connect the St. Mary's River with the Suwannee River. As you can see, the red dotted line is our portage. But this weather system that had been installed over North Florida really cramped our style and lingered over the top of us for 2.5 days, keeping us stuck in St. Mary's until the wind died off and shifted around from the west-northwest. We were basically marooned in St. Mary's City for 2.5 days, but good friend Andy Hayward came up for provide some moral support while we were waiting it out. Finally, the wind died down and shifted around to the north, and allowed us to get our boat put in the water, ready to go, and we getting ready to take off for up the St. Mary's. You can see the bubbles moving in the right direction there. And this is Miss Patsy with her little sailing rig, which we only used a small amount, but it was helpful. If the conditions had been different, it would have been better. But Jeff did a real nice job putting the canvas together to keep the water out of the canoe and keep us comfortable. So getting ready to strap ourselves in and take off. Like most of Florida's rivers, the St. Mary's is a pretty one as it transitions from the ocean to the freshwater as we proceeded to the west. You see the sandstone cliffs as we're going up there, and the seagrass, sawgrass there. Anyway, really, really cool stuff as we proceeded up the river here. Wet hands were my nemesis for much of the trip, particularly that last half. But anyway, here's kind of what the St. Mary's River looks like. It's a little more squiggly than what my white line does. This graphic shows us going up the St. Mary's where we actually did a test portage, the red line, rather than follow the river, which is the highlighted yellow line. That was just to see just what walking the canoe down the road was like compared to operating the canoe in the river, particularly if you had to go up against the current. So this is us hauling the canoe out at King's Ferry, and here we are walking down the road. This was about a 6-mile walk where we got back into the river again with our canoe, and you can hear things in the swamp. You say, what the hell is that? Unfortunately, the filming ended for the night right there, mostly because we were busy and it was freezing cold, but there was plenty of drama, which I wish I could have documented. There we are in the morning, our shadows, as we had to opt for either going down the river, or excuse me, up the river, or walk down the road. And we decided to go the road based on our comparison between paddling against the current versus that 6-mile test walk. Once we landed at Traders Hill, we were in Georgia again, and so a lot of this walk was in Georgia, and here we are headed south down Route 23 towards St. George's. Long walk, about 18, 19 miles, I think, that morning. We got there about 3 in the afternoon, but man, it was a sight for sore eyes to be rolling into St. George's. Coming into the hamlet of St. George's. Trucks, roosters, barking dogs. Canoes. The knuckleheads walking down the street with a canoe. We didn't attract too much attention today until about 45 minutes or an hour ago. We had 3 people all within 5 minutes. Wanted to know what the hell we were doing. Where are you boys going? Fargo? Why would you go to Fargo? Puppy dog. He's gonna go right, or what do we do?
Oh, it's clear. Yes, good.
All right, there's our blinkers up there. Jeffrey's been seeing them for the last 3 miles. I only saw them a few minutes ago. Anyway, we turn right here, and 37 Statuette, 32 nautical to go to Fargo. We're gonna take a break though. McElhenney, straight ahead. Crawford, hang a left. Fargo, hang a right. Question now, which of these here gas stations has got the best cuisine? So this is it. The Exxon, Four Corners, the Woofy Wagon, which is only open for breakfast and lunch, and Canada's Grocery, I guess, is in here, so we'll see. We'll be pleasantly surprised. We just came 18 nautical, 21 Statuette miles, longest I've ever walked in my life in one day. I don't know about Jeffrey. That's what he says too. Anyway, we'll go see how life is in here. So that's what my foot looks like after 20 miles of walking. Little baby powder. As you see a little red toe there, little baby toe. He's not happy about his plate down there. Oh man, Gatorade never tasted so good. After getting ourselves refreshed and renourished, we hung a right at the blinker and took off for the 37-mile trek east to west towards Fargo. We stopped a couple of times along the way for a little 3-4 hour sleep break and found out what it's like to be homeless. But our first stop was literally, we just pulled off on a little cow gate on the right side of the road, tucked in and off the highway enough to where nobody could really get a good picture of us. Our second stop was next to a kind of a fire tower. We stopped there at about 3 in the morning, and man, were we wiped out.
When you got a canoe and you're going about 2 or 3 or whatever the hell we're doing, you don't want to be on that bridge when there's other traffic. Certainly when there's two-way traffic. Here's a train coming. There's railroad tracks parallel on this road. Off in the woods, it was I think one of those last night right about the time we laid down. Nothing back there? Jeffrey says the coast is clear. I think we're good. We got about 45 seconds
to get ourselves and our canoe across that bridge while there's no traffic. Oh, it was so nice to get a paved shoulder again to be able to walk on. One of the things that we learned to do on this trip was strategically cross the road depending on which way the traffic was going. Thankfully, the traffic was light enough to where we could look both ways and pretty much avoid the traffic.
This is what it's like with the trucks here. As they say, put one foot in front of the other. Just keep walking. Ah, yes. You see that correctly. It is raining. It started about half an hour ago, and we didn't quite make it to Fargo, but we're close. You can see off in the distance there. Yeah, we were hoping to have dinner here tonight. Actually, the one restaurant that does exist in Fargo, as luck would have it, closed on Tuesday. Imagine that. All right, here we come across the bridge. This is the Suwannee River. Welcome to Fargo.
We had walked a total of 67 miles in about 36 hours, something I didn't think was humanly possible, but our feet definitely paid the price for that. Here we are with Epsom salts trying to resurrect ourselves. It was about a half-mile walk from the Suwannee River Lodge down to the launch spot for the Suwannee River. But we wheeled the boat down there, took the wheels apart, get the boat ready to go in the water, and there we go.
This is the bridge we walked over yesterday into Fargo. We are out of here. Anyway, that's so long Fargo. This is the Suwannee they've been waiting for.
The Suwannee is, without a doubt, one of the prettiest rivers in the United States, if not the world. And just what a unique opportunity it was for us to be able to paddle essentially the length of the river.
Do what?
I knew there was a reason I showed those 2 bicycle bags. Oops.
Reloading. I know, it's getting scratched. Sorry, Miss Patsy.
Jeff's friend Rocky stopped by at the Wayside River Park to pay us a visit and give us some moral support before we got underway and proceeded on down the river. Here's where we were stopped on basically a sandbar on the side of the river and set up camp for a couple of hours of sleep after a long day from Fargo. After a sand in your pants camping experience, we got underway again, and the inconvenience there was more than made up for by the continuing majesty of the Suwannee River. As we got underway again before daybreak, but we were able to be up and watch the first light come through the trees, and it was truly spectacular.
All right, it's Thursday morning. Coming down the Suwannee River.
There's more Suwannee.
Beautiful little dawn breaking here, 7:30. Daylight savings time. We've been up on the water since about 6. And just nice to see it get light here. These snags, i.e. trees falling down in the river, a lot easier to see in the daytime than they are at night. We've only, I think, smacked into one of them, but we got close on a couple. Jeffrey's gonna ask me to get where am I not paddling because I'm shooting. So, all right, paddle coming.
Our second rest stop on the Suwannee was at Lafayette Springs State Park, and we set up camp in the afternoon. Again, we just needed a few hours of shelter and shut-eye before we got underway again around, 10:30 or 11 at night for the home stretch down to Fanning Springs. Keeping with our 5-star hotel theme for the trip, we selected the lovely Park Inn in Fanning Springs for our overnight stay. It was where we were able to rest up after our long paddle down the Suwannee River and get ourselves physically and mentally prepared for a 30-mile sail the rest of the way down the Suwannee before we got to the Gulf of Mexico. Here I am preparing my feet for the paddling and the sailing, but hopefully not a lot of walking.
All right, so here's I have a couple shots here. We need stability. I mean, it's blowing and the pop's 20 plus here, and the lulls are zip up. See, my leg is a little bigger than the other. I don't know what the hell happened. Walking 58 miles will do that to you. Oh, you got another dog barking at you, Jeffrey. All right, we're on tack about 120, probably about a third of the way down the Suwannee from Fanning Springs, and it's fluky. All right, so those are Florida's beautiful water hyacinth. Got to do a little jib back here, help tack the boat. Whoa, push. Tiller came unhooked back there. Small problem. Back in business. Crisis averted. Get those good grip shoes. I mean, these are what are known as cypress trees. They love growing in the water. We saw a bunch of them paddling down the river when they're just out in the middle. I don't know if I'd go in there. I think that would be too much risk this late in the game. Oh, but we get a lift. And all this green stuff was pouring out of the Santa Fe River into the Suwannee. We just decided we'd go for the green, and it's the only advice from Donald Trump I'd ever follow. But anyway, we stayed in that green crap, and that's where the good current seemed to be all the way down, and we made it to Fanning Springs. Anyway, this is what shore tacking the Swanee from Fanning Springs down looks like.
30 miles of short tacking down the Swanee River to get out to the Gulf of Mexico. 201 tacks. I counted. Crazy. Nice to get back to the Gulf of Mexico, though, into the open water where Spawn could stretch her legs again. But there to greet us as the sun set and we arrived back at the open water of the Gulf was another nasty weather system, complete with lightning, thunder, and 40-plus knots of breeze. We went skidding into the channel at Cedar Key under bare poles, making about 10 to 12 knots, and we anchored behind Seahorse Key to wait out some of the storms. But after we dragged in a particularly big gust of wind, we decided we'd be safer out in open water and got underway again. After battling a few more thunderstorms in the wee hours, finally the front passed and things cleared up, but we kept our tails between our legs to make sure we made it to the finish.
All right, this is coming in Bunce's Pass. A little sketchy for the last maneuver we've had to make here. We opted to go main down and just didn't want to get caught sideways back there with all the breaking waves. And anyway, it looks like we're out of those woods, on to the next woods. These are our guys. Woo!
Sailing back into the Bunce's Pass boat ramp there at South St. Petersburg after putting 1,200 miles under our belt. Wow, it was really a great relief to be there, and had a lot of happy people to greet us when we arrived.
You go, what the hell's that walking? I'm better switch over.
Down that old river, boy, all my worries far behind. Floating down that old river, boy, leave old memories way behind. Yesterday slowly fading, all my life I've been waiting for this time. Floating down that old river, boy, leaves me feeling good inside. Floating down